Okay, guys. So, what I have here for you today is the seminar has been posted as Deviation Investigations, but I do actually want to challenge you. You will be hearing about deviations in GMP, GMDP, all of your work in the pharmaceutical industry. But I actually want to challenge your terminology and I want to challenge your thinking. I want you to start thinking about issue management because really it's not just deviations where we investigate issues. Think about all the different places where you have to do essentially the same thing that you would do in a deviation investigation. You may need to perform an investigation into something that has gone wrong anywhere in your pharmaceutical business. So, what are we actually going to look at today? Today's agenda, we're going to look at definitions and what do we actually mean and where are we going to look when we look at investigations. What our investigation process is. Now, this is our introductory webinar, and our full course actually has some in-depth hints and tips and some best practice for you when you're looking at your investigation process. Documentation. How do you write down and fully document everything that you've done such that it can be reviewed later by the business and especially by your inspector sometime down the road and be fully understood in that situation? Impact and risk assessments. I have some wonderful conversations with people about what is an impact, what is a risk, and how you assess it and how you document it. So we'll touch the surface on that one. I could talk to you for probably a week minimum about impact and risk assessments, but we have only a few minutes. And some of the investigation best practices that I've picked up on my 30 years experience in the pharmaceutical industry. And I'm sure you will have things that you can add to that too. CAPAs. Now, CAPAs are not the focus of this seminar. We actually have another seminar where we're going to look at CAPAs in detail, but obviously you can't look at investigations without looking at corrective actions, preventative actions. And then we're going to have a little recap, a summary at the end. So let's dive straight in and look at some of the definitions that we need to be aware of when we're looking at issue management. So what do I mean when I talk about issue management? I'm talking about quality risk management, the proactive activities that we do in pharmaceutical industry. If you're not doing proactive quality risk management, make a note because you will be doing that at some point in the very near future. It is now a regulatory expectation, ICHQ 10, Usual-X Volume 1, Volume 4, Chapter 1, sorry. You need to be doing this. Out of specification, out of trend. Do you mark these as deviations in your system? Whether you do or not, you still need to manage these as issues. You still need to investigate these thoroughly. And we're very lucky here in the UK and certainly in Europe because we have a very well-defined process that has been laid down by the regulatory bodies for us to do these investigations. So why don't we actually have this well-defined process for example, deviations? We're constantly seeing feedback from our regulators that our investigation processes are inadequate. Why don't we get them right in the first place? Audits. Findings from audits are often given a corrective action without initially going into a root cause analysis investigation. Again, that doesn't make any sense to me. We need to make sure that we actually have the right root cause before we assign a corrective action. And if we have audits or inspection findings, why would we not do a full root cause before we actually assign an action? But very often we miss that step. And funnily enough, we get recurrence. Distribution. In our distribution area, particularly with excursions for temperature controls, again, we miss the investigation piece. We make assumptions and we have lots and lots of reoccurrence in this area. So we need to bring our expertise from our deviations piece into this area. Issues, general issues that we have that may not fall into any particular bucket will need to be managed and investigated properly. And complaints, including adverse event reporting, still need to be investigated. Now, my thought here is that, quite frankly, this is all issue management. This is all investigation. How many different processes and systems do you have in place in your business to manage these? Wouldn't it be more efficient and effective and less costly to have one process that people are trained in, that people are used to, one set of documentation that people are familiar with for everything that is on this one slide? It baffles me why we have 6 different processes for something that is essentially the same thing. So that's really my advice, my top tip. If you take nothing else from this seminar, have a look at all the different systems. Try and streamline, standardize, and bring together under one roof your issue management process. Let's have a look at the overall process flow that I would recommend that you follow. Of course, you don't have to follow this process. You need to do what works for your business. But this is what I would recommend. Take these steps more or less in the order that I've put them and see that this will actually help your investigation into your issues. The first step is that the issue is noted. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is the time point that the issue happens. This is when the issue is noted. It may have happened at some point in the past. Then we investigate, and this includes our root cause analysis process and our assignment of our corrective actions. Then we improve our process through those corrective actions or even preventive actions. Don't forget that this should lead to successful procedure and improvements. So when we have our overall issue management process, we should make sure that we are doing good effectiveness checks, because if our effectiveness checks failed, we probably didn't get to the right root cause, and we need to go back and look at our investigation again, which is pretty much a waste of time, isn't it? We've got better things to be doing with our time. So we must follow the entire overall process. Sorry, I'm in the wrong place. There we go. So let's have a look at a little bit more detail into our investigation process overview. Okay. So what's our first thing? As I said, the issue occurs. Well, it might occur and we might not notice it, or it might occur and we do notice it. Whichever way around this happens, it will occur. We need to make sure that we have systems in place to detect issues, and that is part of our overall quality management system. We need to make sure that we have detection in place. However, from my perspective, prevention is better than cure. So our overall issue management process should be focused on making sure that we can put prevention in place. But things go wrong. We didn't expect coronavirus to happen, did we? Well, actually, some companies expected something similar, but I cover much more of that in my risk management discussions. So our issue has occurred, or we have noted our issue. What's our next thing to do?